Most of us understand that there is great importance in active listening when it comes to communication. But what if you had an easy tool to make it even more effective for you? Deb, I am so excited to have you here. If you've been listening to the podcast, it's likely that you've heard that I love the topic of listening when it comes to communication, because therein lies so many issues. So I'm excited that you are here. Do you want to share with our audience who you are and what you do?
Hi, thank you so much for having me today, Traci. I'm excited to have our conversation. I know you are an expert in your own right, and so this should be a really fun conversation for those listening in. I'm excited. My background and training is actually as a United Methodist pastor. I have a 96-hour Master of Divinity degree with a specialization in care and counseling. That's where I learned how to really, really listen. And then I went and applied that, serving churches and that type of thing. Left the church pretty early on after I served for full time for 3 years. I had my daughter, and the LGBTQ plus issues blew up. So I could not stay after a family member came out, because I knew that I would be like other colleagues I saw being put on church trial, losing all of their things. So losing their ordination, losing their pensions. It was a really difficult time for the United Methodist Church. So I walked away, and I went and raised my 2 kids and helped my husband, who we found out actually had a genetic condition, and he was very ill for several years. So all of that kind of grew and grew and grew. A life experience that eventually led to the business that I have now. It's called Hold, Hearing Out Life Drama. It's an active listening service where those whose family, friends, or coworkers are too close to a problem, or worse, are the problem, can simply be heard without judgment and without advice unless they specifically ask.
Wow. Okay. So now this is something that they come to you and they've got issues and they talk things out with you? Or is this information that you teach them for them to go take into their lives? Is it a mixture of both?
So I offer both. Yes. So the listening service itself, we offer in 15, 30, or 45 minutes, and people can just come and book an appointment online. And it's not therapy. It's not coaching. It's different than that. It's quite simply someone to hear you, who will listen and hold space through whatever it is that you need. And then, I also teach. And so I have an online course called Listen Your Way to Deeper Connections. That's on the relationship side, and then the personal side. And then I also have a business side to the business as well.
I love that also because, again, if for those who've been listening to Communicate Great or know anything about me, one of the things I say is that whether it's for your personal life or for your professional life, that we help you build those deeper connections. And so we have so much in common with what we do. You just take it in a different direction. And I love it so much. Okay. So why don't you share with the audience your communication tips?
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want everybody listening in to know that there's no shame at all in not having this foundation in your life. It's not taught in schools. It certainly wasn't when we were young. And only 2% of our nation has actually had any education in active listening. And most of those people are in the therapeutic world, right? Psychologists, psychiatrists, some people in sales have had some training, but a lot of times it just was lacking. We weren't taught how. If we were lucky, we had somebody in our world who did it well, and we learned to mimic and follow their lead. But for the most part, many of us didn't. And so that's a great place to start, is to know that we can always do better. I believe that for myself as well. No matter how long I've been practicing, we can always be better. And I just bring that to my life and to my world and to those I work with.
I have to say 2%, 2%
Yeah.
of the population, two. I'm
Mhm.
not a math person, but if I were a math person and I knew what our population was, I could pop that number out really quick. But that is mind blowing. And I know I shared with this with you when you and I had our chat, I don't know, what week, however long ago. But and I know I've shared it in the podcast before, but I want to share it again. So I used to think I was a great listener. And to be honest, most people, if you asked, are you a good listener? I bet you more than 2% are going to say, oh, I'm a good listener. And I was that. And so when I was working on my master's, I took a 16-week course just on listening. And so I walked in the first night thinking, this is going to be a piece of cake. I got this. I left that night, that first night, walking to my car in tears because I realized this bubble that I had about how great of a listener I was popped very quickly. And I realized I was not a great listener. And so I think a lot of people would say, I'm a good listener. But when it comes right down to it, you nailed it. We all have room for improvement for sure.
Yeah. So you asked me about the tips. Let's go there. And let's give some help because there's practical things that you can do. So what I teach is a framework called the core, and I go into this in depth in the course, Listen Your Way to Deeper Connections. But just really briefly, I can give you the outline of it, and you can walk away from this and go, oh, I can apply that. So what it stands for, it's an acronym, and it stands for calm, outcome, relate, and empathy. So when we're listening to somebody, if you're not calm, it's not going to work out. Everybody thinks listening starts with the other person. Actually, it doesn't. It does not. Listening starts with you. And before you can ever bring yourself to a conversation, you have to find that peace and that place of emotional regulation in yourself. Hopefully your listeners understand when I say emotional regulation, it's just that really that calm, that set point of I'm okay. I'm going into this conversation and I'm not angry. I'm not distressed. I'm present and I'm ready to be here with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so once we have that established, then we can move on and look at, all right, what outcome does the person that I'm listening to, what are they hoping for from the conversation? Not bringing our own agenda, but what is it that they're needing right now? What is it that they need from me? And so understanding that from the outset can help so very much. Like, if we're talking about where are we going for dinner, that's really easy. We all know, okay, we're going to we're going to go to dinner now. But what if it's our teenager, or what if it's a colleague at work? Does our teenager want our advice about that relationship, or does our teenager simply want us to hold space and listen? Does our coworker actually want our thoughts about how we can move forward and offer some solutions, or did they really just want us to hear them out in this scenario? So that outcome is super, super, super important, and it's very easy to clarify with just a quick question.
Yes. And let me just interject right now with question asking is key to, in my mind, what I would tell somebody, asking questions is key to effective listening.
Yeah. I cover that under the R part. That's part of the R. So we're going right there. I love that so much. It is. The relate part that I talk about in the core includes questions. It also includes body language. It includes the simple things that most of us already think about, like, okay, we probably shouldn't have the TV on if we're going to have a serious conversation. We probably don't want to be interrupted by the phone. We need to make sure we put it away and we're actually dialed in and we're present here. And so the relate aspect, and especially understanding the difference between an open-ended question and a closed-ended question, all of those things are very, very important if you're really going to listen well. And then finally, just simply push out here to the empathy. That's the E, the empathy. And so when we're coming to a conversation, we want to make sure that we're open and ready to have compassion for the other person. And again, that's where it's difficult. Sometimes we can lose our calm, right? So we come into the conversation, we have it, but then they've shared with us whatever it is that is difficult. And if we're not able to hold our center, if we're not able to stay calm and express empathy, then it's okay to say, I need a few minutes. I'm going to back up. And sometimes we need more than a few minutes. It depends on how big the situation is, right? If somebody just gave us a bombshell, we might need a longer time before we're able to have a longer conversation. So, you're in the midst of it, your life. I trust that people understand that what I'm sharing and can apply it in their lives for sure.
Okay, yes. And so you talk about, I'm glad that you brought this up when you talk about if you need a minute to calm down. Because again, you talked about that 2% are really trained in active listening. I would imagine it is a very low percentage. I have no idea what that number looks like, but the amount of people who can remain calm if somebody is coming in hot after them, right? Like I imagine that's a very low number. And I know for me, if I'm tired, if I'm not feeling
Yeah.
well, if I've had the same struggle with the same person over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and things are a little more raw, it is hard to maintain that. And I find myself in those situations, it's so much easier to start matching intensity for intensity. And so, what tips would you give when you talk about that calm and just having that emotional regulation of keeping it, kind of at that lower, more calm level when somebody's coming at you hot? What do you tell your clients in terms of other than, step back, walk away? What if you say, you know what, I need a minute to calm down before I can respond, because this is going to get into a negative spiral quickly if I
Mhm.
respond where I am right now. So give me a minute. What happens when that person doesn't honor that? Give me a minute. I mean,
It usually blows up. In my experience, it blows up because you've asked for it and you haven't been heard. And so typically it will. And there's nothing, people think that something's gone wrong when that's happened. It hasn't. What has happened is everybody's had the opportunity for a learning experience. So, when things cool off later, this is, I think, part of the reason we have memory, right? We remember what happened. We can come back later and we can say, look, I know that didn't go the way I wanted it to go. I wish it had gone differently. You matter to me. It was important that I listen. I tried to get the space I needed, and that didn't work out. We missed each other, and I'm really unhappy that this blew up. Can we have another try? Have another try at it. And I think coming back and reframing it when it has blown up, because sometimes it's gonna.
yeah,
Sometimes, as despite our best efforts, sometimes it's just gonna. And it's understanding and trusting that even though that was an uncomfortable scenario, even though that wasn't what we wanted, even though that really sucked, it's really all going to be okay in the end. And
yeah.
that's powerful. And I think there's also a point too, if you can manage to back up to offer another solution. So let's say it doesn't blow up. Let's say that you're able to the other person says, nope, we got to have this right now. If you can just breathe, if you can take in a breath and just let that come in and then come out, doesn't have to be
Mm,
a big pause, but enough for a breath. And
mm,
if you can just help yourself know this is true and this is true, their truth is their truth. And my truth is also okay. There's nothing is out of balance or incoherent here. It's all okay. What they believe is what they believe, and they have every right to that. And so do I. And we can be here together, and we can disagree, and it'll be. I mean, I can't imagine just our political climate right now as someday as we're recording this, we're some days out from the election, right? And
right, right.
this is over and over. I mean, this is blowing up for people. This is an issue. People are having these conversations in their
Yes,
homes today,
yes.
and being able to say it's okay that we disagree. It's okay. I love. It doesn't matter. I love you. I care about you. I see you. I hear you. I understand your point of view. I don't agree, and that's okay.
Right. And I think helping people find that it's okay is so important, especially when so many people have the mindset of somebody's right and somebody's wrong. And they will die on that hill of I'm right and you're wrong. And then the other person will die on the hill of I'm right and you're wrong. One of the things I like that you said, that it's an opportunity. When I talk to people about conflict resolution or management, I want them to understand that conflict is an opportunity. And so in the scenario that we're talking about with listening, that is part of a conflict scenario. And so, of course, there's opportunity for growth in your relationship. There's opportunity for growth personally. So, I love that you talked about that it is an opportunity. So, I like that.
Yeah, it really is. I'm so excited for people to really begin to understand that that nothing is going wrong, right? It really is all okay. I think sometimes we're like, when that blew up, we had this conflict, and so it's now I don't know how to fix it, right? I don't know how to make it better. And in actuality, um, you can just take a small step, just a small reach, just a small act of kindness. And before you do that, make sure that you have that calm. Make sure you know what outcome that you're looking for. Make sure that you're ready to relate to the person. And make
Mhm.
sure, most of all, that you have some empathy for the other person's point of view.
Yes, yes. Okay. So out of all four of those elements of your core,
Hmm.
this is a personal question. Which
Okay.
one of those is your favorite? And I know that they're all important. They cannot be, I don't think those can be mutually exclusive of each other. I think they have to work in tandem. That's what
Yes.
I see. So I would imagine that's what you would agree with as well. But of those four elements, what is the one that lights your fire the most when you're really working with people on it?
I think when people really understand and grasp that, oh, I can I can do the work ahead of time. I can get myself in a place where I'm ready for this. I can get ready and come into a conversation. That excites me. That when people understand that the calm is critical, that's exciting, because it really does have the potential to change your conversations.
And your relationship, I would imagine.
Yes.
I would
Yes.
imagine if you have a history of combativeness in a
Yes.
relationship, whether it's spousal, parent, child, coworker, it doesn't matter, personal, professional, it doesn't matter. This core tool that you teach people is huge just in your life. And so I would imagine if you have a combative relationship in any of those areas and you start approaching it in this way, how that might, wait, what? I thought we were about to go, and somebody's sitting there just calm because they've come into it prepared, understanding that if they bring to the table these things, that the outcome may not be different ultimately in terms of, you can't control the other person at all, but your reaction and your mindset definitely have an impact on the outcome of the way you treat each other.
There's science behind it, actually, that when one of us in a conversation can maintain the calm, it can actually bring the other person back down. It's in the narrow pathways. It's really fascinating.
Love
Yeah.
it. Love
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Let me share something personal, because actually I was about 7 when I was in the car with my parents, and the person driving got upset and started to drive erratically.
Yeah.
And suddenly we found ourselves flying down the highway at 123 miles per hour. It was terrifying. I was in the back seat, and there was no emotional regulation at all in that car from either person. And I knew at the time there had to be a different way to communicate. There had to be another way. And I was determined at that young age. I'm like, I'm going to learn. I'm going to figure this out, because this is not the way it should be.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I no, wow, that's scary. What, as a child, that's a young age to have that happening. So not only do you have this, my physical danger awareness, but also probably a little bit of a secure issue as well, because when parents who are supposed to keep you safe as a child are behaving this way, how can that make a child feel safe? And it can't, from an emotional and apparently a physical standpoint. So obviously that impacted you so much to the point that it became important to you as you grew and as you became an adult and decided what you were going to do with your life. So wow, that's an amazing story. So I wish that, I just wish that we all could just focus on that. I really do. Just keeping it calm, bringing it down. So yeah, that kind of mirroring effect, when you're mirroring and then maybe the other person will bring it in. It's kind of like that thing where if you're in a room and you cross your legs, then somebody else crosses their legs, and then somebody else crosses their legs, fold your arms, somebody else. So yeah, I do imagine that that would help. Not always, but I imagine that that would help, at least for a moment, I would hope. So, okay, I like that. Okay, what else do you want to share with our audience?
Hope that you can do this, right? There's hope, and there's the opportunity to learn and to
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah.
This is not something that only experts can do. It's not something that, even if you haven't had professional training, as it were, you can still learn. You can still make it better. You can still change your relationships every day, by just thinking about and applying, exactly what we're talking about here. So,
And I would say that you, again, you mentioned the word practice. And if this is not a skill that you've worked on, don't beat yourself up when you don't get it right.
yeah.
How many years, this is one of the things I used to talk to people about. How many years did it take you to develop that trait, that response, that whatever? And then you're going to expect yourself to change it overnight. That's not going to happen. It is a growth process. It is work on it. And if you don't nail it, it's okay. Work on it again. Work on it again. It's a process. So I like that you talked about practice, because that is important, and giving yourself grace and mercy when you don't get it right is also very important.
Yeah, 100%. Oh man. If people only walk away with that from our conversation, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Like, as it gives you permission to say, okay, well, I messed that one up, but that's all right. We're
Yeah.
going to we're going to have another opportunity, because I still live with these people, or I still going to interact with them, next week, or whatever it is.
Exactly.
There's the opportunity. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Tell our audience how they can get in touch with you. Socials. Do you have, I don't know. I don't remember. Do you have a book? Do you, what? Tell me everything. Talk about all your stuff.
No book. People will find free resources if they're looking for the free things. Those are on our website at www.hearingoutLifeDrama.com. I have Runaway Freight Train Brain, which is a super short mini course of the video for those people who really struggle to stay focused when they're listening. Sometimes that's a struggle for people, so I have that resource out there. Rescuing a Sideways Conversation touches on some of the things we talked about here. That's also free. Communicating with Your Teen is another one that's also free. You'll find all of those things, all those good
Wow.
things there. Yeah, and then the course, if people want to go deeper, if they really want to go, okay, I'm into this core, I'm bought in, like, tell me more, I'm ready for more, then the course is there for you. And so, Listen Your Way to Deeper Connections is available. And if you just need a listening appointment, you can book online again at hearingoutLifeDrama.com.
And that is important. And I like that you said it's not counseling and it's not coaching, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And I would just encourage you to reach out if you just need somebody, a third party, a neutral third party, just to listen to you. I would encourage you to reach out to Deb and take her up on that and book a session with her and just release what you need to release to her, because I know her, I know her heart, and she is definitely a safe space. So I love it. So thank you so much for coming on. I very much appreciate your time. And I know that you are going to be one of our guest experts on in my Know Thyself community. It's a glow and grow community where we talk about analyzing yourself, getting to know who you are so that you can gain that greater self discovery and greater self love, and therein build those deeper connections with the important people in your life. So I'm very excited, Deb, to have you in that community, dropping some good stuff to the members. So if you're interested in the Know Thyself community, I will also put that information in the description. And Deb, thank you very, very much for coming on. I very much appreciate your time.
Thank you, Traci. Great conversation. I hope it was helpful to your listeners. Take care.
It was. All right, everybody, see you next time.